Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be digging into whether or not Land Rovers are as unreliable as everyone claims. First and foremost, so a huge shout out and thank you to the Land Rover here in Lehi, Utah for giving me some time with this pre-owned Land Rover that they have right now. It's a 2011 with over 100,000 miles, actually over 122,000 miles to be exact. So if you're interested, I'm going to include a link to their inventory in the description down below. They also sell the Land Rover and Jaguar product at MSRP with no markup as well, if you guys are wondering. So yeah, definitely check them out. And then as always, if you're going to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Now, first off, the reason I picked out this particular vehicle to go over this topic is because this is a 2011, so it's over a decade old. It has air suspension, it's got a big V8 under the hood, it has a ton of technology as well, and so this is basically like a case study for a quote-unquote lack of reliability in terms of a Land Rover, because it has all of the tech and it has, again, air suspension. And so we're basically going to see if everything works on this vehicle and kind of just go over everything in today's video. So anyways, this one has the 5-liter V8, which has actually been shown to be an extremely reliable engine. And Land Rover's done some crazy stuff with this V8. They've supercharged it, obviously, and so it puts out crazy power outputs with the later models. Well, when I say later models, the newer stuff. Now, that's the new full-size over there that they have, but the previous generation full-size had the supercharged 5-liter V8. And again, the engine was shown to be super reliable. There's also turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinders in Land Rovers, and those initially had some quirks, but it seems like most of it's actually been worked out at this point, which is great. And then on top of that, we've got the new turbocharged inline 6, which is in the Defender. You guys can see the Defender over there, for example, and that engine has actually been shown to be very reliable and robust so far. So the point that I'm trying to make here is, from a powertrain perspective, right, there are some quirks that can pop up from time to time, but for the most part, the powertrains are actually pretty dang reliable with these. And with that being said, also, look at that. Struts still work, just saying. Now, the last thing I want to touch base on with the front end is actually the lights. This is something that people talk about with the Land Rover models, because they've got these cool, like, fancy lights. And you guys can see we've got, this is like the first iteration of daytime running lights around the headlights. But guess what? Everything still functions. Now, these are quite pricey to replace when they do go, but it seems like they last a pretty long time. So again, that's another big plus. Parking sensors, all that kind of stuff still works, fog lights. So again, so far this 122,000 mile Land Rover, which should not exist, you know, in terms of like the internet's opinion, still working with everything on the front end. The next thing is actually the air suspension, and guess what? This one has air suspension, like I said, and I've got it in the off-road height right now. As you can see, it is all stretched out, and so yes, it's still fully functional. And so again, that's something that people talk about with the Land Rovers. But here's the deal, is Land Rover has been using air suspension longer than pretty much anyone else, and so they've figured out quite a bit with air suspension systems to make it so that they aren't gonna fail as often as what you'll see with other automakers that are using air suspension. Yes, it is an expensive system to replace when it does go, or slash if it does go, I should say, rather. But again, on this 122,000 mile example, it still is working fine. And look at that stance with the air suspension popped up. Something else that I wanted to mention while we're popping into the back is the key fob hasn't changed all that much over the years. Like, the new one definitely looks like sleeker and nicer and all that kind of stuff, but this still like looks pretty similar from a key fob perspective. And you still have the light button. I didn't even know that. I thought that was like a newer feature, but like, again, this is a 2011 and you still have the light button. Now, I'm pretty sure the latch is right here. So look how we can open up the top portion. Now, the new ones are like fully automated, whereas these ones, well, not necessarily, but you guys can see here, storage space is great here in the old one. But look at that, even the little light here in the back still works. And just look at like the, well, I guess I can't pull that up. But just look at like the quality of everything. Like, this is in really good condition. Like, I wouldn't say like new, but it's pretty dang close from a condition perspective. And I wonder if this, oh no, it just locks it up. So I guess you just have to lift up yourself and then lower the hatch down yourself. The new ones will do everything for you, but yeah. Anyways, everything still works from that perspective, and it's cool to see kind of like the design change with this compared to the newer ones, because a lot of the stuff has stayed the same. Now, popping inside here, something else, like look how well this interior is held up. 122,000 miles, and these seats still look absolutely fantastic. You guys can see you've got vents here in the center. You got heated seats here in the back. You're on climate zone. But yeah, the point I wanted to make is like, again, this looks pretty much like there's, you know, you can see some wear and tear in certain places, but I mean, this almost looks like, you know, brand new on the inside, which is pretty crazy. And then popping here to the front, again, you guys can see here, just look at the fit and finish on everything. Blind spot monitoring for the mirrors, which still works. Look at these front seats. Again, now you can see a little bit more wear on these front seats here compared to the back, which is pretty typical for most cars because you're going to use the front seats the most. The driver's seat gets used the most out of any other seat. But look at this. Still works. Look at that. Still works with the up and down function. Like, everything still works. So again, the argument with the Land Rover electronics all going out, I'm not so sure about that. I say that and then it doesn't immediately start up. It's because I didn't press it hard enough. Anyways, so cool to see like the evolution of the steering wheel. This has a full digital gauge cluster. Okay, full digital gauge cluster, which is cool that they had this back in 2011. Again, it's crazy the tech that Land Rovers will have. But anyways, still works. And if you guys are wondering, it's because I have the door open. There you go. So, no warning lights either. And you guys can see the air suspension is raised up. Now I can press the lowering button to lower it back into normal ride height, and it'll lower back down because it still works. So crazy. And then look at like the dash. There's no like awkward folding or anything like that. Like, it all still looks great. Now the next thing is this infotainment system. So first off, if I pop it into reverse, you guys can see camera still works and it's got trajectory lines. Again, crazy to see this from 2011. And then as for the rest of the infotainment system, obviously it's not crazy responsive like new screens, but it still works. Okay, we've got our dual zone climate system, which that all still works, and we have our heated and cooled seats, which that works too. Like, I don't know if you guys can hear, but the fan's on for the air conditioned seat right now. And then we have our drive mode select, which is kind of interesting to see how they've changed this over the years. And look, we have this cool animation here in the center with the different modes. So that whole thing still works, and it's cool. This still has like the whole locker system that they've, you know, obviously improved over time. Low range, high range. You can switch between hill descent control, right? Hopefully, the parking brakes right there. That's so unique. But yeah, I mean, everything in here. It's surprising, like a car with this many miles is held up this well. Ah, we have the weird glove box. Still back in 2011, they had the weird Land Rover glove box. Did I not press the button? Oh, there we go. I just didn't pull down hard enough, apparently. And guess what? Last but not least, before we take this out and drive this, wait for it. Where's the button? There we go. The sunroof still works too. So like 122,000 miles, if you don't believe me, right there. And everything still works on this. Now with that being said, we got to turn on the brightness here. We're gonna take this out, drive this, kind of sum things up, and yeah. Oh, you gotta hold it. Setting off here in this Land Rover, and I'm glad that this AC still works and that these air conditioned seats still work, because it's 100 degrees outside, so I'm able to just drive around in complete comfort. And yeah, we'll kind of start talking about some stuff. Also, ouch, that is an accident if I've ever seen one. Wow. Anyways, so first off, this feels so comfortable. Like, the seat comfort is amazing in this. Again, this is a, you know, over a decade old at this point. Love that V8. Yeah, this rides like just like, you know, a brand new 2022, 2023, you know, car, basically. It's smooth, it's comfortable, it's quiet. Like, it's definitely, like, it's crazy. Like, this is such a nice experience. Like, if I threw someone in here, yeah, like the, you know, infotainment screen looks a little bit dated. The gauge cluster is actually held up pretty well in terms of like how dated it looks. It looks relatively modern. But if I just threw someone in here and like they drove this blindfolded, they wouldn't know that this is over a decade old. They would assume this is, you know, a brand new car with how this feels. That's impressive. So here's the point that I wanted to make with this video. So yeah, Land Rover gets a lot of crap for their reliability, but you know, I think it's more of a cost thing rather than, you know, necessarily a reliability thing. Yeah, there are some issues that have popped up with several Land Rover models in the past, but it seems like they've tidied things up pretty well to the present day. Again, there are still some things that you'll have to potentially deal with, right? There's well-documented stuff like on the, you know, 4-cylinder engine, for example. But that being said, oh man, that's so powerful. That being said, I'm starting to see more and more of these high mileage older Land Rovers on the road. And I think it's because, like, they're actually a lot more reliable than, you know, people will give them credit for. And I mean, you guys can see, like, this is great. Like, everything works in this car. It's comfortable. Like, it drives like any other modern vehicle. And obviously this is a fraction of the price of what it would have cost brand new. Like, this probably was over $100,000 brand new. It's not nearly that much now. So yeah, I definitely think that, yeah, owning a Land Rover, it's going to be more expensive than owning like a Toyota, right? That's a given. It's a luxury, meaning any luxury car, no matter how reliable, is going to be more expensive because, you know, oil changes are going to cost more, regular maintenance is going to cost more because it's a luxury car, and they, you know, they know that they can, luxury brands, you know, they do use more expensive items within the powertrain and, you know, the interior and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the material cost is more when you have to replace stuff, and just labor cost, right? They know they can get the money because it's a luxury vehicle, right? That being said though, you know, I don't think that it seems like you're gonna have to deal with as much as you would have had to have dealt with in the past. Now, obviously the new ones are, you know, even techier than this, but this has quite a bit of the same tech that a new one has, pretty much, right? The biggest difference is new ones have like a bigger infotainment screen, but like this has heated, cooled seats. It's got a sunroof. It's got a digital gauge cluster. Like it's got air suspension. It's got a lot of the same stuff that the new ones have, and it's all held up really well. And so I think it's also just going to come down to like how well you take care of it as an owner. Are you doing your regular maintenancing? And then also, like, how are you driving it, right? Are you just beating it up? So I think that, you know, if someone does, you know, the regular maintenancing with these things and really takes care of it, that Defender is so cool looking, by the way. But yeah, anyways, really takes care of this thing, then yeah, I don't think you're gonna deal with the reliability issues that everyone's kind of talking about. I think it's one of those things where, like, you know, a few of these will have like crazy, horrible issues, just like every automaker, and then everyone will base the entire brand off of that. And it's like, yeah, it sucks, but I mean, this obviously shows that a Land Rover can survive to high mileage, and it can survive with everything still working. So let me know what you guys think. That's gonna sum things up for our video on this Land Rover and Land Rover reliability. It's super windy, sorry about that. Anyways, I will see all of you guys in the next video.